Hello, hello, and welcome to the Rise of the Womb Oracle Summit. I am your host, Athena Sai, and I am a wisdom keeper and an oracle for the Blue Rose. And today I am so excited to have my soul sister, Valerie Elster, with us. So if you don't know Valerie, I'll go ahead and do a short introduction. She is what I like to call a planetary grid worker and a galactic ambassador. She carries that dragon medicine, and she's really a cosmic oracle. She is a RMT, Akashic Field Therapy specialist. She's a gem and flower essence practitioner, a matrix energetics practitioner, galactic shaman. She's a child of Gaia. She holds both the feminine and the masculine wisdom, and she is an ancient soul. So I'm so excited that you are here. You have been doing this work. We have been weaving for about a year together. And
Yeah.
I'm just so happy that you are here. So
Thank you for
I
having
want to,
me.
yeah, I want to get started with just some basic questions about what is really alive for you right now, especially when you think about the term womb oracle.
Right. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Hi, everybody. It's so lovely to be here, and I'm so proud of you for putting this on. I know it was in there floating, and so proud of you for bringing it down and grounding it in such a short time. I love that. I love how quickly everything's going. So, that's super important right now. And as I was looking for what have I talked about with the womb? Of course, the first thing that comes up is the event you and I did together, which was restoring the primordial womb. And that was our first offering. And that for me is still very alive. I would say that's been the last maybe 4 or 5 years of what I've been working on. Although I do want to mention when I first had the awakening, as many did in 2013, it was a lot of Gaia, but also Galactic. There was a lot of relay of both of those energetics. Yeah, so, you know, that was probably the first 5 years. And now it's mostly been, okay, everything's been brought in, and let's now connect those two portals together. And I saw this kind of tree, right? All of those energies then were able to spread out, integrate, ground, anchor. And that's also what we've been doing as oracles, as womb oracles. We, of course, have had to go into all of the shadow, all of our, aspects that we're holding this trauma. And so much of this womb oracle work is trauma work, is looking at those pieces, especially those of us that hold the ancient grids, because ancient grids are ancient templates, blueprints, whatever you want to call them, because we're able to relay, I guess that's maybe not the right word, but we're able to go into those spaces, and most of us have the correct, code structure. That sounds geeky. Some of my galactic stuff. We have the right energetic frequency. That's a better word, because we have the remembrances, right? Like you're saying, blue oracle with the blue rose. Many of us have hold many different remembrances. Egypt. The Sisters of Isis. Of course, the Magdalene. And Sisters of the Rose, Magdalene stuff, and Lemurian. We're holding a lot of these shaman pieces. I was going to say shamanistic, and that's really what's happening right now. So even though I say I'm a galactic shaman, I mediate between all those different realms, and the womb is, a very important portal, not just as a woman, not just for birthing, but for creation. So it's really about what's coming in, what's being created, and we get to hold. And, a lot of us, similar to a birthing process, if you've had a child, which we both have, is you're holding space for that soul to come through, right? So that's what a shaman does. We hold the space for and mediate between the realms, whatever that is, whatever wants to come up, right? Whatever that conversation with yourselves wants to be had. So
Yes, so much yes, so much yes. And I love that you brought up the shadow aspect, because that's, I'm a Scorpio. I like the depths. I like to get into it.
wait a minute, hold on. Did I know that? Did I know you were a Scorpio? I don't think I did. That's so funny.
Yeah, I like the depths.
I know
like to
that.
go deep. So with this, the shadow aspect, do you feel like, we're in, I keep saying this, like we're in this huge period of transformation. I mean, the cycles that we're moving through, collectively, individually, as
Yeah,
well as, cosmic alignments and things like that. It's like we're still in this place. Do you feel like we're still in this place where we're still purging that, and it's like we need these guides, so to speak, or we need to take the time to ask these deeper questions for us to discover the shadows, the areas that need to be embraced, the areas that need a little
right.
bit more light and love. And do you feel like that? How do you feel about that type of work in what you do when it comes to like the galactic and the earth, and really working with those shadow realms?
Well, that's a good question. And that's really, I would say most of us, most of, what we all do or facilitate, not only for ourselves, but for clients, individuals, and the collective. And, what's coming through and what, we've worked on and some of us navigate are these different timelines, are these different groups of information that contain a variety of pieces, templates, et cetera. Being able to kind of delve in and hold those pieces. And, that's when others show up, other soul family or what have you, to assist. And so for me, a lot of that has been through relationship, through, going through, running out, whatever you want to call it, reflecting to understand collectively what the pattern is. And most of this piece that we've all talked about has to start internally. Of course, the womb is, that's numero uno there in bringing through these souls. And I've said this before, but most of what gets birthed and most of souls coming in bodies, they have trauma from the get-go. They have trauma coming in. They have separation trauma. For me, most of the species has PTSD because they're bringing through their ancient souls. They have a remembrance of trauma. And look at the last few thousand years. There's not a lot of periods of pure joy and frolicking naked on Gaia in Eden.
Not yet, but it's
Not
coming.
yet. Oh
Here,
no, I know.
we are
It's coming.
birthing that. and,
We
and
are
I think,
birthing that.
yeah. And I think, like you said, and the womb is, we have to remember the womb is both dissolution and creation. So like you said, it's going to bring those people, that soul family, those connections to you,
Yes.
and bring those lessons almost to you, so you can navigate through them, so you can embrace them, so you can clear them, whatever it is that you need to do in that moment.
Yes.
Forgiveness, right? That's a huge piece, is forgiveness of self and forgiveness of others. But also, like, once you start to do that work, that deeper work, it's like we open up another part of it, right? We start to
Yeah.
bloom a little bit more. The flower starts to open. And it's like, then that's where we start to create. And that's kind of why this summit was coming together, because it's like I had it in my mind for so long that I needed to do this one thing, but it just never felt right, never felt right. And then I was doing the Dragon Dreamscape.
Yeah.
You jumped on, and you're like, I heard something from a summit. And I was like, oh my God, that's totally been in my mind. And so it was there.
Right. That's what I said. You pulled it down.
Yeah, the womb was ready, and you helped to initiate that. So I think that's important to say.
Midwife.
Yeah, and it's like we're all opening up to this new way of being, this
Yeah.
new way of communing with each other, and this new way of, really creating from more of a space of love and connection and oneness and wholeness. So
Yes.
so when you think about like the consciousness of the womb, or the energy of that womb essence,
Yes.
how do you feel like it can really assist like you or others in life, in love, in business, even? Oh, there's my dog. Sorry.
Remember you said business. Perfect. Well, okay, so this is the deep feeling, right? Deep feeling is the ground of this wisdom, and this is what a lot of us are holding. And the Temple of Delphi, right? Many of us remember the oracles of Delphi have held those positions. And this is that path. And of course, the womb is the chalice, right? It's holding the codes, it's holding the being, the soul, whatever you want to call. How it doesn't have to be a physical, of course. We're using this it's to birth anything, which is where the midwife, so the midwifing, which is again holding space, right? And this, it can be done woman to woman, woman to man. It's not a gender thing. It's like, oh, I'm holding the space. I'm going to help you midwife, whatever this is. Language tangent. Jukasamacho fushabantai utande. Kiyo dakhandate hamai tane lai. And there's layers to what you said. There's layers because we have the etheric, the energetic layers, right? So you've got all the different dimensional realities. And so, where everything is created. So the thought and the inception is created in those higher realms. And then how it's midwifed, right? How the energetic alignment brings it through. It's very important, which is why sometimes souls are like, nope, not coming in, right? And they'll choose not to come through. So it's really all the same. It's whatever you're birthing, whatever the idea is, and then being able to midwife, which is why we need each other because some of us, I'm a manifesting generator. I generate lots of stuff. I translate a lot of the codes. So what I do, we do similar work and then recode or update or go to the grid and do some healing work on the field. So all of these pieces are all part of it, but we need each other to bring it over and ground it, because it doesn't necessarily mean that we're doing it in the 3D sense, even though we're conceptualizing it, envisioning, right? Oracling, is that a word? It is now. It is now. So as the feelers, of course, the womb is the deep, deep feeling center, and that is such an important aspect of our being. We have to feel. And so with the trauma, with what's happened here on the planet, a lot of people have shut down that feeling center. And this isn't gender. It's a, this is the feminine embodiment wisdom. Men are deep feelers too, if they're tapped into that feminine and they're okay with it and they're not feeling shame, which has also been a lot of the men's work. It's okay to feel and cry and release and whatever. So that's really the biggest part of that second chakra, first, second chakra of it's okay to feel, right? It's okay to express. And, that's also that shame part, right? Which is you getting into third chakra, how I feel about myself. So, knowing the chakras and how we process, we bring in the information, and then it gets mediated by our system, by our energetic system. So depending on where your energetic system is, the emotional state, trauma load, etc., it depends. It affects what comes in. It affects the frequency of what is actually brought in. which is why, like you said, it was just sitting there waiting and I saw it. Then I was like, oh,
I just I didn't have all the pieces. And I was like, there's
yeah,
something here. And I even
yeah,
tried to like launch it in a different form a couple
yeah,
times. And I was
yep,
like, it just didn't feel right. So I had to sit with it. And until, I gathered and, talked to you and stuff, it was like, okay, it's
yeah.
time. This is it. And it just has flowed through. So literally that was like
I
less than a
know.
month ago.
I'm watching going, what?
Yeah.
This like came
That's my
together.
ADHD hyper focus. There is a
I'm the
plus to
same.
having that.
I can relate. As many of us can. The tunnel, just get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's important, right? Just what happened with us is we and it's why we've been working and finding each other, right? The soul family, but we all have a role. And I think we had to spend the last 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years clarifying the role, but also healing the rift between the masculine and the feminine, more importantly. A lot of feminine weren't jiving, a lot of competition there, a lot of trying to old stuff, right? These are old constructs of I need to get this man's attention, the king, right? Or whatever, for protection, for survival. So a lot of these biological imperatives, I call them, they're still in the DNA, they're still in the body, they're still in the makeup, the formats, right? They're still there, even though we're not in that time and space anymore. The body remembers. And so the memory of being property, women being owned, just like, horses and land, those in harems, right? These are the stories, having 1,000 wives. Some of this is still in this physical vessel. So for me, a lot of that, we've had to transmute so much between not only the sexes, but also between the women. So we can come together in cooperation, right? And I've been in many scenarios, many 3, 4, usually 3. It's me and 2 other women. And sometimes they flourish. Sometimes we do one thing and then it falls apart, has to come back. Other people show up, the fractals, right? So a lot of fractals, and we get what we need. If there's a coming, if we come together and it falters, we already know something's not in alignment, or that person needed what they got, got what they needed, etc. So, but to be okay with all that, to be in that, total 0 point, it's not always easy, and we've had to come into that cooperation. These are feminine principles: cooperation, collaboration, right? So competition and some of those shadow pieces, those aren't part of our normal makeup. Those are created. Those are based on subconscious fears, old survival stuff. So a lot of it has been about moving through that. So we're not accessing those records anymore, right? The Akashic record, something I've worked with for many years, since 2005, to hold, because a lot of people are still running off the records. They're just running programs off pre-recorded information, right? Because that's what the records are. So to have gone in and worked at transmuting the collective patterns, including my own, I had a lot of work to do. Now, most of us open into these modalities, but we have to go through the fire continually. There's no, we're over here. So
we're in it as well. And I'm
we're
glad
in it as well. Yeah.
And when you speak of like clearing it, like for me, it feels like it's like kind of those pieces of self-reflection, self-honesty, self-acceptance, like the awareness, the acceptance, the forgiveness, like that is how we transmute it. That is how we shift it, right? When you say the 0 point, can you explain for those that are watching a little bit more about what that means for you?
The 0 point.
Mm-hmm. Like when you're saying clearing it, and you said to 0
right
point.
So for me, it just means back to center, right? If you imagine this balance, this harmony, syntropy, whatever you want to call it, and really the true nature of masculine and feminine, it's balance. right? There's no degradation. So we see those in archetypes like Shiva Shakti, good example, right? Cyrus, Isis, Osiris. So we have stories and archetypes reflecting what that means, right? Because the union, it's the two. There's no, one and one. We're just the reflections, not just, we're reflections of each other. So it's coming into wholeness, balance, zero, right? There's no charge. You're not running something. So, if you get triggered, that's fine. As long as you're able to come back and get back to zero, get back to balance, get back to wholeness. Because a lot of people will trigger, but they don't understand it. So the subconscious is like, we're trying to figure this out. So we're going to keep doing this until we figure it out, right? Because then it's integrated. Once there's a conscious awareness of what's happening subconsciously, then you're actually able to go, I didn't even know I had that. Now you're consciously aware, which is most of the healing, is just having a conscious awareness of what's happening on the other levels. Then you can catch yourself and say, oh, I recognize this behavior based on this pattern that so it's having something happen and being able to quickly come back, meaning you see listen, whatever the pattern is, you're able to have you're able to see it objectively rather than be in it as the victim. You're able to go, oh, I see how I co-created this. Oh, I see what this pattern is triggering within me. Let's see if there's any charge, right? Charge or reaction. Because what happens in the subconscious when you're in day to day is something will happen and it triggers. It's called there's a name in the records, but it triggers a reaction rather than a response. Yeah. So you're just, because reaction is just the emotion. It's the somatic, the pain body, right? That's created out of trauma that's unchecked, or generational trauma that's hasn't been acknowledged, identified, integrated, healed, right? Grounded. So the body just starts running. You're not even in control. It's just an automatic. So it's, being able to view that for yourself and then being able to respond, and then getting to a point where you're not it doesn't react.
You
You're
don't
not
react at all.
reacting. Thank
That's
you.
when it's
Yeah,
integrated, right?
that's what's integrated. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, when you're not reacting, or it's just like, oh, that's interesting.
And then
Or,
you like
oh,
celebrate because you're like, oh my God, 6 months ago, I totally would have flipped out.
yeah, then you're like, am I bypassing? No. Is it have I really integrated that? So, we have to, which is why we have beloved reflections to go, nope, you haven't. Yeah. Yeah.
Try
Sorry.
again.
Yeah,
Another
try again.
layer, and that's something I've been noticing too. And actually, a few of the other speakers on the summit had mentioned, stuff that they thought they had dealt with, and then it's like resurfacing again, but for like it's like a different fractal of it. It's like a
Yeah.
different little version. And so it's like, okay, it's not completely integrated. So let's go back through this process. And I love how you said, basically what you're saying is like the awareness of it, the identity of what it is, right? Because we can kind of be aware, like, oh, I'm triggered, but like you said, they don't understand it. So it's like trying to identify, like, what is that? When was the last time I felt that? What is the root of it, right?
Yes.
And then that's when and also, like, for me, my pain body, like, I get, I have back issues, and sometimes my knee is wonky, and oftentimes our body, like you said, the somatic, the pain body will like relay it. So it's not just usually back pain, because you slept
Right.
wrong. It's like something else. And so having that awareness of, and talking
Yeah.
and communing with your body, like, we had kind of said before the call, like,
Yeah. The
all
somatic.
about coming back
Yep.
here, bringing
Yeah.
all the wisdom back here, and asking yourself, like, what am I feeling right now? Where am I feeling it? What is this? And it starts to move more quickly, not always with grace, not always with ease, but it starts to shift
Right.
awareness.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Beautifully said.
So the next one, and we kind of already talked about this, about the importance of gathering. And you talked about the masculine and feminine, and then the feminine and the feminine, and it kind of brought back into my awareness, like as I was studying deeper into the priestesses of the red veil, or Anana.
Right.
That was a lot of
Yes.
it. They were some of the sovereignty goddesses, or the sexual priestesses, right? They had the sacred
Yes.
sexuality practice, and they helped to name the king. They helped to clear the masculine of whatever energy they were suffering through.
Right. Yep.
But
I have
then,
that remembrance.
yeah, but then that friction kind of came up between the women, because there was a shift that happened. And and it's kind of even with like the Athena and Medusa story, like the story,
Right.
this dynamic plays out.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering what you feel about what's actually really possible, one, when we can really heal that, and two, when we can start to authentically share our stories together, like as
Right.
community. What do you feel is possible when we do that?
I mean, I think like red tents coming to mind. Not that I was really involved with that, but I think the intention around that was so important to get women together in that space, in that sacred space, to talk about those remembrances, talk about, you know, um, the womb, healing the womb, healing whatever that trauma was. And also collectively, we have a collective pain body too. So that's also, like the feminine collective. So I would write things, I would, bring something through that was from the whole collective, because that's what I was hearing. So as we individually would do that, would heal those spaces and places, then we were able to show up and mirror. So for me, it's like whatever you're doing in the micro then gets mirrored in the macro. So that's why each meeting, each relationship is so important, especially if you do, galactic work or you do grid work, because we're reflecting through our field those pieces. And I've had, relationships, and I've heard, if you can figure this out with this person, it will affect the collective in this way because of the two, what you two hold, the frequency, who you are on soul levels. That's come through many times where I've heard that, if you can just figure it out. But a lot of times, we're just dealing with our pain body, either masculine, feminine, or both. So until those, and really that's how you're going to get triggered. Relationship, right? Especially intimate relationship. I mean, family stuff, yeah, but intimate relationship, because right, you're right up in there, and this right there, you're triggering all those physical points, physical, meridians, right, in the physical anatomy, and then it's going to open and release. So yeah, I'm just seeing landmines. I don't know why. I just saw I just saw a lot of, I think that's what relationships have been. Maybe it's just for me, but anyway, a lot of landmines,
Tread carefully. Tread
tread carefully.
carefully.
Yeah, I'll say that I wasn't, when I had my bigger awakening, it was like, woo, I got with all my sexual power back and all the remembrances, and then all the trauma came with it. It was like, oh crap. So I kept getting repeating situations because I obviously was still having to mediate. And then I had situations I couldn't get out of myself. I needed other people to help. We can only see so much. I mean, even as oracles, we can see a lot, but we're going to have blind spots. We're going to have, places that we have an idea of what it is, but we don't fully know what it is, which is why we've ran into each other. So we're able to combine, right, our I mean, power is not the right word, but it's more like combine our signal, just like you and I have with, Debbie. Is the three together is a very powerful, especially at the frequency, or the, I talk about cymatic a lot, the sacred geometry that we create, very important, which is why, there's sometimes it's so much energy. We have to just, it's too much. That's come up, right? Because we're It's wonder triplets, right? And then you put yours in, and then it just the circuit. We blow
Yeah.
circuits. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about that. So, and blowing circuits just means it's just to what we're bringing in is such a high frequency, and then together, and then we're doing it with other people. So it's just to be aware of how much, how soon, but also we're the frequency of our collective frequency is changing. Our group dynamic or frequency is getting higher. So we're able to do that more. That's really been, if I look at it, just we open up deeper, and then the group gets that deepness, and which is what we've all been working on, so many of us.
And
Um,
I can remember like my lifetimes as a Lemurian priestess, and we would
yeah,
do things. We would channel in the divine light and actually birth through Immaculate Conception. But it took 8 of us or 9 of us. It was 8 of us and 1 in the center. And so I remember the way that we had to stand and like how we needed to integrate that
yeah,
information because we needed that. And then the masculine was there too,
yeah,
right? Protecting on that outer field. And like, so what you're saying,
yes,
it feels like, like with us 3, it's amazing, right? When we can get together, but it's like the energy wants to be more, wants to come through. So it's like, we need more of that gathering, more of that.
or maybe more people, right? More circuits, so we're not
Yeah.
all holding.
And that's why
Maybe, yeah,
that pillar of light, that's just like, and also,
yes,
like the number 8, 7, 8, 9, that's a lot that, the priestess kind of, even 13, right? Like the
yeah. I've
coven,
been getting
the 13
12.
moons.
It's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I'm seeing
So
12
yeah. And it's like
on some
holding those
things.
pieces. So I feel like our ancient selves are reminding us of this now, and like we're
Yes,
starting to build that. And I feel like that's part of our creation process as we work together, and everyone
yeah,
that we work with. I feel like it's something's building from it.
totally. And we're building on. It's not like we're starting fresh. Well, and as you and I have worked on, and we've done is the energies of distortion. There's so much distortion in all of these civilizations and all this, just in so much, right? So much distortion. So a lot of that, and that's how we were operating. We were operating from distorted templates, distorted relationships, right? Grids, everything. So moving, I saw that 2000 year like loofah, just sloughing off. I such a such a clear visual when that happened, but like it was literally just clearing these layers of delusion, not delusion, but well, I guess delusion is part of it, but
The Maya, the illusion.
yeah, the illusion, yeah,
Yeah.
the inauthentic, whatever you want to call it, inorganic, right? Grids, templates, energetic systems. And there was a lot of, so you had the system was good here, and then you had some weird overlay, right? Like inserted. And then it's like, well, half of it works, half of it doesn't. Which I talk about in the whole avatar, 12D avatar, because the 10D avatar is the closed tree of life, right? Closed system. We did this in our last, we talked more thoroughly about this. And where we're supposed to be running a 12th dimensional, an organic, which has a connection to your cosmic self, your higher self, your galactic self. That relationship is very important. It allows us to grow and to have that, higher human, cosmic human. We're cosmic humans. We just got cut off and everyone just, looped, right? Descended. I just heard descended. No, I'm not getting biblical. That's a whole nother show, which I think I'm seeing. I just heard all that story about Adam and Eve and Lilith. That feels like an entire. So there you go. That's what I'm seeing. That feels like a summit because those templates, they're all templates. right? So I'm looking at the energetic to see how that story was perpetuated, created and perpetuated. It's very important. I feel like there's a lot of us that can speak on that, myself included.
And that totally goes in with what you were saying about the relationship between feminine and feminine and masculine
Yes.
and feminine,
Yes. Yep.
right? So that totally
Yeah.
weaves with what you're saying, because those are archetypes that in stories
Yeah.
that we've been told, right, by religious structure
Yes.
things,
Yes.
and we still care, like we were saying, you know, we still carry that information in our
Yeah.
body unless we do that inner work of like reclaiming our
It's
sexual energy
yeah.
as creator, right? Understanding that we can
And
also be divine and solo. We don't have to have a partner if we don't want one, right? And we can be wild and fierce and
oh
loving
boy.
and ecstatic, and we can also be pure and innocent and loving and
There you
devotional.
go. Okay,
We can be
because
all
right,
of it.
the programming of sin when this in the sexual, that's such a big issue.
Mhm.
You know, it's so ingrained. It's such a deep orientation. And, you know, it's hard for a lot to mentally break from that construct. That's one of the biggest loops we have is
And
that.
I will say that I live that, because my extended families were extremely religious
Yeah.
and never
And
spoke
you're
of
a
that.
Scorpio girl, so
I know.
yeah.
So it was like all this weird shame and fear and guilt and all this stuff that I've had to break through, and you know, leaving a relationship and finally having no one in my life
Yeah,
for almost 2 years
right.
has opened me back up. And
Yeah.
but I have to do that inner work and look at myself like, why am I
It's
like
fear,
ashamed
shame,
of
guilt.
things?
Yeah, I didn't go on. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because
So
look
I
what that
totally,
does,
yeah.
right? So
Look
if you're
what happened.
circling that, where's your attention going? You're not creating, you're just running these fear programs, guilt, fear, shame, insecurity, blah, blah. You're just cycling down into the mosh pit of humanity. It's words. They're just coming.
I love it.
um, well, and that's like the descended, right? If you think about, and it doesn't take much for one idea to be perpetuated in many different parts of our modern, you know, construct here, right? They're this, they're that, they're this, they're that, you're this, that's it, you're that. So, which would be all being challenged now with all of the rights, right? There's not just one way to be. There's many ways to be. So it's as many things, we have a huge influx and all the stuff comes up. It has to. We can't heal those pieces without everything coming up, which is why there's, you know, disclosure about many things. Disclosure includes everything, anything that is being hidden, any information that's hidden, that's been, you know, put out of reach. And also a lot of the frequency, you know, the frequency has also created division, creates what you can look at, what you can't, right? So there's a lot of interesting pieces happening. So we'll see as we raise our collective frequency, especially root, because the root has been in a big restructure. It has to be. Because again, coming in a certain frequency is very different than holding your own frequency and holding a more organic, right? So the organic grids or the ancient grids, just pure energy, pure creation without all the programming, with all the layers of mud and dirt and false, right? It's just false data.
And
So
you can see too, like when, you know, 2020 happened and things started like
yeah,
getting really crazy, like that fear programming, like that was a seal. That's one of the great seven seals, right? If you follow like the gene keys with Richard Rudd, like divine will is the acidic power of that fear-based city. So it's city number, it's
Right.
key number 40. And the funny thing is I have gene key number 40 3 times in my Venus.
Oh, interesting.
So my big thing is moving from fear. Like
Right.
I'm in that lower state. Like you're talking about those levels of consciousness. When we're in that lower state, that's what all we know. And it's like, how do we get out of that? And so
Right.
collectively, I feel like even into like maybe even into the beginning of 2024, I'm feeling like we're still in that root chakra, like you said.
Yes.
We're
I'm seeing
moving
another 6
through.
months.
Yeah, we're moving
Yeah.
through
So
this
we're in,
seal, this great seal, because when we can actually move beyond that shadow, we
yeah.
come into the Siddhic power of divine will, which is really allowing ourselves to surrender to that great cosmic energy that
Yeah.
we are, that higher mind, that higher self, like that energy. We can tap into that consciousness, but we have to do all this little muddy work in before we can get there.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great way to say it, because um and I feel like we are this last 5, 6 months, this is it. This is the final pieces for that root chakra, because 2024, I've seen so much gatherings and collaborations, and the communities finally coming together. I'm being, moved off this grid into more community, onto land that I've been, curating for many years. But it's being procured for community. It's being set up, and so many others. So it's like we're finally there. There's enough of enough of what you just said, so we can coexist. Because we're supposed to be together. We're tribes. This is tribe stuff. A lot of the pieces that have come through are tribal related. This is all tribes of the planet. This is Earth tribe stuff. And those are deep, and those are old, and those are, when the tribes got separated, what happened? So the layers that have had to be mediated here.
Well, and I know that you've worked on a lot of that, and I've
Yeah.
been even called to that too. Like the land that I live on, this is what needs to be worked on. Like this grid. Like I live just a couple blocks from the Iowa River, which is a very large river, and
Yeah.
it's like this is what you need to do. And so I've been communing with a lot of the native in the astral realms and in the quantum, and like what's needed right now is this cultivation, like you said, of for me where I'm at right
Yeah.
now. Like this land needs to be cleared, this work needs to
Right.
be done.
Uh-huh.
And so that's another thing that's I talked to another person on the summit about, is like I'm not being called to go anywhere, or I'm not
Right.
necessarily getting the resources even to go to this place, but
Right.
it's supposed to happen at will. So right now it's like home
Oh
base
yeah,
area, because
totally.
the gatherings are coming. I
The
don't know
gatherings are
where,
coming.
but the
Oh,
gatherings
I
are
already
coming.
they're
Yeah.
just they're naturally coming together. I mean, we've talked about it. We're just going to all show up. It's not going to be any very little agenda. It's just like, hey, you
Yeah.
know, it's all because we're operating, and this is where the hive, the real definition of what I call the hive, we're all on the same signal. We're all sharing the same frequency. We don't need to talk to each other. We already know we're being led together, and we're being led into projects and led whatever. So it's just a flow. It's a total organic flow, because we're not only, internally in that flow, but we're in concert with her, with the planet. This has been a return to her cycles, and working within her cycles, right? Not our cycles, not our will, the force of, you could say man, masculine energies, right? Not just men, but a push, a force, right? We're not going to just let it happen organically. We have to make it happen. So it's just a very different energy. And that doesn't work. It's not going to work anymore. It's already not working, but we're going to see it working less. that anything that's not in that flow will just, it won't happen. And this goes for every relationship, any relationship. So it just, right?
And as you're,
Shamani,
I was gonna say, as you're speaking, I feel your dragons.
Jara-
I feel your dragons and the elementals want to come forward. So
Jantana.
let me check. Okay, we still have
Okay.
some time. So
Apatana.
what, because I know that you have and hold the dragon medicine, and I know that you've been working on some peace treaties with Mount Shasta and the root of the planet, and I know that you've been working more and more with the dragons and things. What, tell us all about that. I don't even need to put that in a question. Like, what is alive for you?
How much time do we have? I don't know. See if I can
You know-
summarize that. That's a that's a whole conference. No, I'm kidding. It's another hour. Okay, I'll do it in language and then I'll see if I can summarize it. Just like I was saying, multidimensionally, it's not just humans advancing or expanding. We have to make sure all the other species, animals, elementals, etc. We share the planet with many. It's not just human. We're almost the invading species, if we're going to get honest. But that's a whole nother hour too. Sasancha do nehitaishute satamanohana it amaniana nahana nanayama. So within the grid work, right, space and time, that's what we do in grid work, is we're navigating, communicating, mediating between the realms. So either it's trauma in the land or it's something happened that wasn't honored, a lot of native, I'm in California, it's all Turtle Island, this is Lemuria. And I've done a lot of work over in Hawaii and in other Lemurian important places, because we're also, part of returning to this organic grid is mediating those timelines and the trauma and the remembrance. When people start to remember, cataclysms and things that happened, with water or what have you. So those are collective memory fields, which is what the Akashic record is. It's a collective memory field. So to be able to, heal that, update that, whatever, or the collective allows us to operate on new information. And so a lot of it's just been clearing out the old gunk so you can start operating. Just like a computer. You can't operate a new computer with old software. Sure, you can kind of get by and, hotwire things, but at some point it won't be able to run because it doesn't match, right? So that's kind of how I see how we operate, is we're the quantum computer, if you want to go there. We have the data, and our, how we process information is in quantum speed. So the more clear we are, and then the more connected we are to all of those other dimensions, we're able to mediate much quicker, which is why things seem to go very fast. That means we're in a higher frequency and timeline. So things are just dropping off and coming in as fast as they leave. So that's quantum time. That's the quantum process that we are capable of as these divine humans.
So basically, through our whole conversation, it's clear your shit, acknowledge your shit, clear your shit, get more shit.
That's a lot of it. That's the relay. I mean, hopefully,
no, I shouldn't say it like that, because it is really a beautiful process, and we're all on our own unique journey, and we're all at different
no,
points.
it's not.
Right?
Shadow work is not beautiful. But beautiful is ignoring it. That's because then you're just la la la. So no, shadow work is a deep dive, and collective shadow work, forget about it. Talk about, that's a whole nother story, which is why we've had to do it together. But I will say one thing in our final few minutes: we have to do everything together. We can't do anything alone. For this next phase, we have to come together. That's the most important piece. We have to hold, because our frequency together, it's unbreakable. If somebody, you know, gets triggered, right? We pull them up, we pull them back in the herd. I mean, that's kind of the vibe, because that's, you know, you go out with a big group of us holding a high frequency, and hopefully we'll be meted, but we're still we're still running different timelines. People are all on a completely separate trajectory. So this is the collective, the group, right? The cymatic, holding those frequencies, holding space for everybody else to go, oh crap, you know, they're seeing something with new eyes, or they're receiving information, or it's coming out in the news. So collectively, that's what's next, a very big collective awakening. And we all have been preparing to be able to hold space for that, facilitate whatever needs to happen, right? And more people know they need medicine, they need plant medicine, they need healing, they need whatever. They know it intuitively, because the old stuff's not working. The pharmaceuticals, the food, it's not working. So that's been happening, but I really see it picking up pace this coming, you know, next year.
And that's really us. And that's really us, you know, that's the Aquarian kind of energy, is about new information, but it's also collaboration and bringing it together. And so, yeah, you know, we are being ushered into this. Again, everyone's kind of at different levels, but we are being ushered into this.
Yeah, or dragged.
And yeah, that's totally what I've been seeing, and really creating from this space of pleasure again, and joy and happiness, and just moving away and letting those old pieces just kind of fall away, and yeah, just really creating from the heart and the womb heart.
Yeah, exactly. Mashamania patanda putum bata ita atamana tako endana hutaniata dahan de shishokhanda il dahatava shamach chambato il ndahan sa sahanza jayanda yukatamama tokiama to hut amba tu bahande bata uteshamba Yamatomani ama pardo watachinda et samani ama notamba ena patamba shamba rodne shaketsanjo taniana. So we're all accessing, you know, even telepathically. There's just a lot more data coming in, a lot more information. You know, we talk about the gnosis, right? A lot of the oracles, you just know things. So that telepathic communication, I've seen it, you know, increasing our communication with the animals, dolphins and whales specifically, because they communicate differently, right? Sonar, telepathic. So we're coming into this union, not just with each other, but with the group, with the other species, the way it used to be, the way things were, where we lived alongside the animals. We didn't separate them. We didn't try to cage them and control. So it's moving out of all systems of control, right? Into allowing, into freedom, agreements, boundary, you know, everything. But it's freedom of choice. It's freedom of being. It's not imposed, because that's what's created a lot of these, I would say, inorganic, or, you know, aberrations in even the human species, how we operate, how we live, right? What we do, how we eat, everything. It's all is a forced situation that created all these weird things, inorganic, strange, and then that affects us individually and collectively, right? Which is why there's so many pieces to a holistic being.
I love that. So I have two more questions for you.
Yes.
One is, if you have a message for humanity at this time, what would that be?
Oh crap. I mean, what's coming up is really honor yourself, honor where you are, and just honor whatever process you need to go through. And because that's really important, not to, not to recreate, oh, I'm not doing it right, it's not fast enough. All of these inorganic, mental constructs that just aren't true. So just honor yourself, honor your body, honor what you're feeling, seeing, receiving, honor what doesn't feel good. It's just boundaries. So just honoring, because that's how it starts. If you can, if you're in tune with your own energy, then it's much easier to, do the things, hold the spaces we talked about. Because then you'll see, oh, that's not mine, that's theirs. That's the group, that's the town, that's the church, whatever it is. Just so you know that you're not part of a construct and a collective that doesn't resonate with you, that doesn't really, show who you are. So authentic, it creates that authenticity. Yeah.
I love that. And I think it's so, so important. How you said honoring yourself and what are your needs. And sometimes I want to make sure that we also understand that like our needs can literally be, I need a day on the couch.
Yeah.
It's not like I need to be meditating for 16 hours a day in the mountains, like it can be if that's what you need in the moment, but also expecting like, like I need some chocolate cake today, like really tuning in, asking yourself, asking your body.
Yes. Yep.
And
yeah, it's that mediation.
Yeah.
The conversation.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm so happy that you got to be here and
Thank
that
you so much.
Are wrapping up. You are the last speaker, and I'm just so happy that you said yes.
I'm playing my drum for that. Dun, 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 dun. I don't know if you can hear it, but I'm the last speaker. You can? Oh, the rattle. Okay, sorry, I had to play that when you said I'm the last one.
I love it.
We're celebrating.
Yeah. So last thing is, what are you working on right now? I know you have a really exciting project with the dragons. And then how can people find you?
Yes. Yes, dragons. So we were speaking earlier of I have a container that's launching in a couple weeks, actually in 10 days, which is working with the dragons, and the specific information came through the Avalon dragons. So it's called the Avalon Dragon Diaries, Albion, which is the spine of, I guess it goes all the way from England all the way through to Scotland. Have to go look at that, and Lemurian light body. So it's a 6-week group activation. So I'm super excited about that. And I also just finished my summer light language, alchemy of sound, I call it. So that's awesome. So anyone that's looking to, enhance or translate. So I do a lot of that kind of work. If you're receiving information, but don't really know how to translate. So I'm doing that 1-to-1, as well as some in-person. I've got an Lionsgate retreat that I'm doing in New Mexico. Hopefully I'll have that up today. That's going to be awesome at my client's land that I've curated for many years. So yeah, I'm looking to do more in person. So that's definitely coming in. I'm receiving it. I want to see people in person. So I'm shifting as well into that. So I look forward to seeing everybody in person.
And we also have something in the works.
Yes, that's right. Our trio.
So hopefully this fall, we will also be having a little retreat as well. Yes. So stay tuned for more information on that.
The Dragon Trio.
Kind of co-weaving over, I don't know, has it been a year? It seems like a while. So yeah, been co-weaving. And so that's something that's still in the birthing process. So definitely stay tuned for that. But I just want to say thank you so much, Valerie, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, follow her, reach out to her.
Facebook. Yeah, or my website, or I have a Square site, but you can access that, or just send me a message.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for being
You're so
here. I
welcome.
talked
Thank
to
you. Thank you.
Yes.
Blessings. Bye.